Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and today I want to talk about the full moon in Capricorn. It's actually at 8 degrees of Capricorn. This is happening on June 29th, 2026 at 4:56 p.m. I think this is an interesting full moon because on the day of the full moon, we have quite a few other planetary uh, happenings. It's like a busy day in the stars. So I think this is going to really bring a set of revelations. When we have the moon in Capricorn, we're talking about a full moon with the moon in detriment in the sign that is the most challenging for it. So first, what I'm going to talk about is the things that are happening around the stars briefly, and then I'm going to go and pull up the chart and show you the aspects that I think are going to be very illuminating, as all full moons are. So let's talk about actually what is a full moon. A full moon is where the sun and the moon are in an opposition and the moon is reflecting the sun's light. The sun represents our vitality, our sense of life force, our identity, and our ego. The moon represents what is unconscious, how we feel on the interior. Think of the dark side of the moon, the parts of us that people don't see. So here the moon is in Capricorn, which is a more stoic emotional dynamic. Emotions come in the form of fear, depression, responsibility, and obligation to others. And then we have the sun in Cancer, where the sun identifies with itself as a nurturing, as a loving, as a healing, as a maternal energy. Both the sun and the moon are making aspects to Saturn and Neptune in Aries. And this is interesting because the full moon in Capricorn, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Both Saturn and Neptune are stationing to go retrograde in July. So they're slowing down. On the day of this full moon, Mercury will go retrograde. That is in Cancer. Jupiter will enter Leo at 0 degrees. Mars is at 0 degrees of Gemini, conjunct Uranus. And Chiron has just entered Taurus at 0 degrees, where it will spend 3 months before it retrogrades back into Aries. This is, I think, a really powerful full moon for illuminations and revelations. The orb between the sun and the moon in square to Saturn and Neptune is rather loose. Neptune is the tighter orb, 4 degrees. Neptune, here in this square, I think that there is sort of this inner tension between what my ego is, what's expected of me, how I sort of show up out into the world, and what I need, the moon, on an emotional level, and what I need in relation to my responsibilities and my obligations. Meaning the moon is thinking, well, I can't do that. I have responsibilities. I have obligations. In Capricorn, this is very challenging. It's dampening. The emotions tend to kind of walk through more limiting and fear-based dynamics, almost even depressed dynamics, before it opens up to the beauty of what it can offer when it stands in its full blossom. That's the way I want to put it. So what we're seeing here is also, let me pull up the chart right now, because I think the natural what we're going to see in the way of where this is happening at the time of the full moon. We see that the moon is technically in the second house of Capricorn. We're looking at a Scorpio rising. I think all of this is pertinent to what will be illuminated for each one of us when it comes to this full moon and what it has to offer. Because Scorpio by nature is the psychologist, the Freud of the zodiac, where there's deep power and control, and it naturally rules the 8th house, where we see the sun right now. The house of the 8th house has a lot to do with other people, power and control, that deep psychological imprint that weakens us on some level before we rise like the phoenix. A part of us almost dies before we are allowed to fully step into our light. And let me click on the sun right now. Now we see, and these are money, a money access as well. The moon here in its detriment is feeling obligated. It's feeling restricted. It's feeling a sense of, I don't get to, I have to. If I don't do this, I am somehow going to suffer. And I'm not so sure that the sun is in its most favor, really, when it comes to being in Cancer, because the identity deals so much with other people and nurturing other people and supporting other people. So, what I think this full moon is going to illuminate is the square to Neptune, which is the most strong of the squares, and then Saturn. Saturn obviously rules Capricorn. And when we click on the moon, we see the moon is making squares as well. So this is a natural T square. It is not, to me, the tightest orb, but because these planets are stationing to retrograde next month, and because of the other activity on the chart, I think this is very significant. Saturn is going to put in tension. That responsibility, that obligation is going to you're going to be aware of it. And yet at the same time, there's a part of you that's going to say, if I can heal others, if I can really be of service to others, I've got to take care of myself and shine my light and allow myself to fully express that which is most important to me. I think the sun squaring Saturn is going to bring historic revelations regarding the ego's expression. Whether that expression is healthy or not is where this is going to sit. I think it's going to bring up issues with authority, especially with men, because the sun and Saturn both have a masculine dynamic to it. I think of Saturn as the grandfather, the elder, the shaman, and then the sun represents the vitality of the masculine energy, whereas the moon represents that feminine energy, that receptive, creative energy. And here in its detriment, this is bringing revelations about how I have been affected by my maternal experience and how I was nurtured. And I think the Mercury retrograde is playing to, sort of illuminating what's happened to me in my childhood and how I've taken that into, subsequent chapters of my life. I think that we're going to see revelations connected to family, connected to self-care as a result of what is expected of me when it comes to my historic or the themes of my life when it comes to family, home, hearth, nurturing, even my properties where I live and my home country. The square here to Neptune, or the square to Neptune to me brings in revelations that are connected to addictions. And people always think that addictions come in the form of drugs, but we can be addicted to other people's view of us. And if we have been responsible and we have done things that were not necessarily authentic to our hearts, but it kept us connected to the tribe or to the community, then we would be on some level addicted to that illusion. We also see that there is, when it comes to this square, there is ego issues, too much or too little. When it comes to the sun and that square, I really don't think that the annihilation of the ego is in balance at all. I think it's very much about the transformation of it. And when we're looking at the 8th degree, of which this full moon is, in Christopher's Witecki step system, the 8th degree is Saturn. And there is that compression. There is a compression of the 0 that pushes it into the 8. So where in his system, the 0 degree, and I'm going to bring this up a little bit because Mars is at 0 degrees, Jupiter is going to be at 0 degrees, and Taurus is at 0 degrees. The 0 degree is where we want to put a protective circle around that which is most important to our hearts. And the eighth degree brings in the history of the physical and the material. So I think that the sun squaring Neptune is really bringing in where things have gotten too blurry, or where I've been too much potentially a chameleon. When I look at Neptune in Aries, there is a very strong energy of the self here and protecting the self from losing its identity, which is very feasible with the Neptune energy. So this T square, which is, I think, Neptune square here is it's the tightest orb. So this is now about coming at this full moon from a more spiritual place, from a place of creativity, from a place of imagination, from a place of honoring the soul that lives within, which is also encased within the moon's energy. Now we have Saturn, who, obviously to me is a strong energy because the moon is in Capricorn. And this is a very limiting this is very much about, the self being deprecating. Saturn in Aries is doing a couple of things. The first thing it's going to do is completely restrict whatever version of the self has been perpetrated up until now, and asking for a reinvention of that through a sustainable effort. And that's where I think this square from Saturn to the moon and to the sun is important, because Saturn, again, is stationing. When a planet stations, it becomes 5 times more powerful. While it's not technically moving backwards, it appears to stand still before moving backwards in the sky. So this full moon is, to me, going to bring up history of where I've been self-deprecating, where I've felt invisible, where I haven't even taken the time to nurture myself because I put so many other people in front of me. Let me click off of the moon and show you now. We see that Mars is in a conjunction with Mercury. I'm sorry, did I say Mercury? I was thinking Mercury's retrograding. We see Mercury retrograding over here, but here, this is an awakening, an opportunity to be brave in my thoughts, in my history of my childhood. Gemini rules the childhood. Taurus rules the history. Technically, at the time of this full moon, Taurus is ruling the 7th house of peace and harmony. And so I think that this is an unexpected potential argument, but also a brave awakening, as I think in more futuristic ways about what will make me truly happy moving forward. Now, Mercury is retrograding. It's in conjunction with Jupiter. Jupiter later in the day will move into 0 degrees of Leo and starting in opposition with Pluto. Mercury's retrograde is taking me back through the history of my childhood and how people had power and control over me and what their influence was, and even siblings and cousins and, my childhood friends. We also see at this time that Chiron has entered Taurus at 0 degrees. So we've got my wound is exasperated. I'm going to click on this very quickly because the wound is exasperated by this aspect, or the square to Jupiter and to Mercury. Mercury is a little bit looser of an aspect or a square, but Jupiter is tightening. So it's creating tension about what you believe, about what you're able to stretch and grow in and expand in, and your own personal sense of wealth and abundance. We also see a square to Pluto. This is not as tight. I think the sextile to Neptune from Pluto is more applicable or more influential here, because there's Pluto trying to dig up and excavate the things that have held you back, the unconscious things that you don't even recognize as a belief. It's just the way it is. So I think that the sextile to from Neptune to Pluto, and then Neptune is making a sextile here to Uranus. So this is all playing around in the background of this full moon. I'm going to take off myself. I'm going to stop the share right now. So what I really think that this full moon is about is illuminating where our own personal habits, our own personal intuitions, our own personal sense of healing and taking care of ourselves, where we have deeper layers to be awakened to, meaning this. We often think as humans that we have to physically focus on another situation, environment, entity, person, whatever, in order for that thing to feel nurtured. But the truth is, from a soul's perspective, as we sit in that harmony of building a dream life for ourselves, building space where we can truly rest and rejuvenate and reflect and extract wisdom, all of those things the moon offers us, especially when we're sitting in a full moon, which the full moon in Capricorn only happens once a year. And while it's in detriment, it's in detriment because Saturn and the Capricorn energy is asking you to build something sustainable, to really look at the balance that you're creating between the we and the me and the them. And I think that all the other planets that are working in coordination with that right now, meaning they are moving into new signs. Jupiter moving into Leo is about leadership coming from the heart, the spine, having courage to express yourself authentically. And there is also the conception of children that takes place in the Leo energy. So the childhood is, again, there is a feeling of a layer of childhood, and how that reflects how you will parent or how you will want to even have children. Then we have Chiron in Taurus. Taurus rules our family history and how it shaped our values, our beliefs, our sense of confidence, and our ability to put our talents out on a stage to create our own abundance. And here we see Chiron, kind of saying right now it's time to extract the gift by protecting what was not provided for. And I think that that's mostly indicated by Mercury's retrograde, and not about trying to villainize the parental dynamic or villainize or victimize myself to what has been, but rather use it as the manure that helps your garden to grow, which is the Pluto dynamic coming in. So I think that this is really a personal full moon. I think that it's personal in the respect that we won't be discussing our fears, our repressions, where our history has held us back, but rather maybe using this full moon as a platform for creating more sustainability in the future. The sextiles that Neptune is making to Pluto and to Uranus are very important right now. They are going to come in and out of tightness when it comes into orb, but these outer planets are literally setting the landscape for you to be able to start to reinvent, to innovate, to use your personal genius. And part of that genius lies in the darkness that you have experienced, or the challenges that you've experienced, or the hurts and the struggles that you've walked through, the trials that you've walked through. And I almost really kind of want to laugh it off a little bit by saying that if you look at how these reality shows that are, especially competitions like singing competitions or dance competitions, they always have a package where the contestant has struggled through something or walked through a dark night of the soul, and now they are standing in their self-expression and feeling their power. This, to me, is the essence of this full moon. So I hope this is helpful to you. I hope that the illuminations that you have. Oh, one other thing I wanted to say. When I did the numerology, the day of this full moon, 6/29/2026, it comes out to 27, which reduces down to a 9. A full moon, a completion of a history that has been restricting, that has been limiting, that has held you in fear or held you in defeat and pessimism. Now is a time to open up and to allow yourself to take small baby steps towards that self-care that makes you feel like your life is purposeful and you are of value. All right, thank you so much. If you like this video, please hit that like button, share. If you want, you can donate to the channel. There's links beneath in the description, and I'll be back with more content. Thank you so much, and have a lovely full moon in Capricorn.